Hello and welcome to the Sunday recap. This is the first recap of 2020 here from Memorial United Methodist Church. I missed last Sunday. I wasn't feeling well, and
I missed as well.
You missed as well. You know that historically, the Sunday after Christmas is the lowest attended church service across the nation.
I guess everybody got their church filled Christmas week.
There's a lot of church that week of Christmas.
I've noticed that Christmas and Easter tend to be your two biggest times of the year.
So we had so just to recap, just kind of go over all of that. We had a beautiful, what I call the midnight service. It was 11 p.m. here, the candlelight service, and it's absolutely beautiful.
It was stunning.
Oh, it was beautiful. I loved it. The music was awesome. They did some a cappella stuff.
It's something about Silent Night.
Yeah.
No music, candlelight at the very end of the service.
It was awesome.
It was touching.
It was awesome. They had like a full orchestra.
Yes.
You know, they had all kinds of brass, and they had violins, they had strings, so the music was just amazing. I loved it. And then, of course, we had Christmas, and then last weekend I missed. So
can't win them all.
We're not all perfect, but here we are. You might notice that it's a little bit louder than normal. We're trying out some new stuff. We've gone to some different microphone setups. Derek, our executive producer and tech guru, says that this is the way of the future. So I trust him. We're going to go that way.
We'll see about that. I don't know how it's going to turn out.
We're also filming in the sanctuary, and we do it immediately following the 10:30 service. So you have to bear with us. Give us some feedback. If you can't hear us or whatever, let us know. Derek can fix all of that. He can drown out the background. He can do amazing things. So let us know in the comments below. So you hear him talking that the church is kind of emptying out right now. But I think I wanted to go that way with this podcast because it's real. It's raw. This is what church sounds like. You know, there's kids running up and down the aisles.
This is it. This is what we are. We're not just in a library.
No.
The two of us with this big old building.
So we're here at Memorial United. We're making disciples who love God and love neighbor each and every day, but especially on Sundays. And here we are. So today we are post Jesus's birth is kind of the direction that traditionally the sermons and the services go. So today we're in Matthew. We're going to be reading from Matthew chapter 2, and we're going to be verses 1 through 12. So I'll read that real quick, and then we'll kind of discuss it. So it's titled Visitors from the East. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod. About that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, "Where is the Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they said, "for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the ruling cities of Judah. For a ruler will come to you who will be shepherd for my people, Israel." Then Herod called for a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them at the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child. And when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too." After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw their star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child, his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. And then they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. So, a ton going on here.
A lot.
So first of all, some maybe not earth-shattering, but some when you grow up, you know things as the way that they are presented to you. So I've often said, how do I know that the color green is really the color green? I was just told from birth that is green. What if green is actually red? Right?
Right.
So I am led to believe my entire life that there were 3 wise men, and that they were kings, and that they were from the Orient. And the Orient to me means China. And like I said, the song, "We 3 Kings of Orient are," like, I always envisioned it. And if you look at a nativity scene, there's always 3 wise men. And when we have the kids program, there are always 3 wise men. And they come to the nativity. They come to the barn. They come to where Jesus was born. And I always thought as a child, what impeccable timing.
Yeah, they happen to be just at the right place at just the right time. And I grew up with it, 3 wise men and 3 kings. And then you had your shepherds and all that. So it's it's confusing.
Yes.
For me as a kid.
Well, so if you read the scripture, maybe that's the problem that the problem with what happened to me as a child. I didn't read the scripture. I just took what I thought and what everyone had said, and I made my interpretation from that. But it plainly says here that they came not to the nativity. They didn't come to the birthplace of Jesus. They came to his house. So we're led to believe that these men were there during the time of Jesus' birth. But that's not the case necessarily.
No, they were not there telling Mary to push.
Right. They got there much afterwards.
Right.
Right. And we know that King Herod here, when they arrive, Pastor Beaton illustrated this in his sermon, and it really makes a lot of sense. They passed straight past Jesus and went to King Herod, right? In Jerusalem. Mm-hmm. And of course, Jesus was in Bethlehem, so they went to Jerusalem, and they went to the king of Jerusalem, and they said, "Where is the king of the Jews?" Can you imagine?
That'd be a slap in the face.
It was definitely a
huge slap in the face. Like, wait, that's me.
Yeah, I am the king of everyone. So it says that Herod was deeply disturbed by this, and I never really thought about that. I always thought that Herod just hated Jesus, but he was, in Herod's mind, he was being challenged, right?
Right. I just thought it was something that he wanted to do because he didn't want, he just didn't want anybody to be a king, or whatever.
And I think that is what the ultimate motivation was, but there's definitely a motivating factor here, because these wise men who were maybe, the scripture doesn't say that they were necessarily kings, like Pastor Beaton said. They were more sorcerers than they were anything else. They were probably highly educated on all things.
Scholars.
Yes. They were like you, right? As opposed to
sure.
me. Yeah.
Minus the knowing everything. I do not know
I wonder
everything.
if they had high student loans.
Probably not.
Probably. So they were these super educated people, and they were carrying gifts, right? And Pastor Beaton said that there could have been 12 of them. There could have been 1 of them, but there could have been 30 of them, right? And you have to think that there were camels, and there were gifts, and there were probably wise women that were with them, and it was probably a big, it was a promotion. There were things that happened there. You know what I mean? It was like a parade of camels walking through the middle of town. Oh, you're not here for me, King Herod? You're here for this alleged king of the Jews.
The only thing that I can think of being close to that is when someone waves at you, but they're not really waving at you. They're waving at someone by you, and you're like,
well, even take it a step further, and they're almost like, could you get that person so I can wave at them?
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm waving, and Derek thinks I'm waving at him, and I'm like, no. Could you tap the person behind you? So, yes, them. Hi.
Okay.
Right. Exactly. And so then Herod kind of thinks on his feet here, and he says, "No, I do not know where this baby is, but let me ask around." So he calls a meeting, and it says in there that the whole town was very concerned because they know Herod. Yeah. And they know of how he ruled, right? Herod was not the most gentle of rulers, right?
No. And he probably was not the most follower of the Judaic faith either.
Oh, I'm sure. So here's what I think of. I think of like when you're growing up, you know your parents and you know their kind of triggers, right?
Yeah, right.
And your friends come over and they don't know their triggers. So my parents, it wasn't never a big deal to set your glass on the coffee table without a coaster, right?
Right.
But I would go to my friend's house and set my glass on the coffee table and they'd be like, put this under there before mom sees you. That's how I think of the town.
Right.
They know Herod and they know how he's going to react to this slap in the face, like you said, right? And I think that they are reacting accordingly, but they start asking around.
Right.
And they start trying to figure out, hey, where is this king of the Jews? And they find him, right?
In a barn.
And well, yeah.
That.
They bring in, this is what I think is interesting. It says in Bethlehem in Judea, they said, this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you who will be the shepherd for my people of Israel. So Herod gathers the Jewish priests and they consult the scripture. They go to the Old Testament in order to find this child.
Right.
Yet they still don't make the connection.
Right. And
this is the Messiah.
And some context to go along with this. Before Jesus, there had been a previous Jewish uprising.
Right.
In which a lot of people thought that the leader of that was the Messiah, and then they were left killed.
Right.
For lack of a better term.
So Herod calls this meeting, and he brings in the wise men, and he says, hey, we found out where we think the baby is. We think that he is in Bethlehem, and you should go there. And when you get there and when you find him, you should come back here and tell me where he's at so that I can go and worship him too. I don't think that he was going to worship him.
No. Why don't you tell me where all the chips are so that I just know where they're at?
Right.
There will be no chips left.
So that's exactly what happens. Well, the wise men have a dream, it says. And at the end, in 12, it says, when it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. So I like to think that God told them to return to their home by another route because Herod was going to have people out searching for the wise men. But I think the wise men probably deduced that what was going on, right? Herod's not coming to...
Herod's not known to be smart. Wise men are wise.
Yeah, right?
They kind of put two and two together.
Herod's not coming to worship. Herod's going to come here and kill these kids. So this baby. And that's exactly what ends up happening. Herod, through the slaughter of the innocents in later scripture, I don't know if we'll go over that next week or not, but Herod says that every child under the age of 2 needs to be killed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. They were right? And then I can't go over this. Every year when we go over this, I have to mention one of my favorite songs. It's called Home by Another Way by James Taylor. And it's about the wise men and going home by another way. And you should check it out. It's an awesome, awesome thing. So, what did I miss, Derek?
He kind of talked about the gifts just a little bit. That they weren't your typical gifts for a baby. Yeah, so not oddly enough, perfectly timed, I have a new niece in my family. My brother-in-law, so Heather's younger brother, Harrison, adopted a child, a beautiful little girl, and she was born, maybe a week or two before Christmas. I'm a horrible uncle. I don't know. I don't know my niece and nephew's birthdays either. But she's a brand new tiny little baby, right? So she's like a week old. So it was cool to do. We did Christmas with them yesterday. So maybe she was born the week after Christmas. I don't know. But we did Christmas with my in-laws yesterday up in O'Fallon, right? And so
they were giving her all of these gifts, and it was funny.
Did she get any frankincense?
No, she got no frankincense.
Myrrh?
None.
Oh, man.
And she didn't get any gold either. So it's funny to me to see that, to see what they got her. They got her diapers, and they got her, little small toys for infants, and they got her
clothes
and but they and my father-in-law is a minister, a Methodist minister. So the fact that there was no frankincense, gold, or myrrh, I'm a little disappointed.
Are you saying you're calling him out on that?
No, never. My father-in-law is one of the smartest men I've ever met, and when it comes to biblical theology and knowledge, he is far and above where I will ever be. So he will tell us, though, that so it's like Pastor Beaton said, there's a lot of speculation about why they gave frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And I think that you can beat this to death, and you can say it was because of this, this, and this, or you can say, like Pastor Beaton did today, and say, well, frankincense, gold, and myrrh were just gifts fit for a king. So that's what these wise men from Iraq or Iran, the Middle East, brought to Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that's what is meant. That's what you give to a king. Now, I've always been told that there are things behind each one of the gifts. Gold, obviously befitting of a king. Frankincense was like incense, and it is what I was always led to believe and told was that frankincense is, when burned, it is a sign of his divinity. And then the myrrh is they mix it with oil and they use it to anoint dead bodies. And so the myrrh kind of pointed to the fact that Christ, was going to be crucified at an early age or whatever.
And it's worth noting that these gifts are not cheap either. I mean, obviously gold's not cheap, but the frankincense and myrrh were,
I think that's
fairly expensive.
That's kind of what Pastor Beaton got at, because he said, but he didn't. I'm paraphrasing, but he said we could beat this to death, and we could overanalyze it, or we could say these are just gifts that were meant for a king,
But there were no diapers,
none,
no clothes.
And that's an interesting thing. He mentioned that. One of the things that I really like about Pastor Beaton's sermons is that he adds a little bit of a human element, and he comes at it from a little bit of a different angle, and maybe gives you. I have heard this particular portion of scripture about 1 million times. Well, I'm 33, so I've been a part of 33 Christmases, and every after Christmas you hear this is the natural way, which it is, right? This is kind of the next thing that happened in the life of Christ. So I've heard this a lot and never really thought about how the Magi felt. So the Magi, another name for the wise men. I never really thought about how they felt showing up. They had to feel a little bit not wise, right?
No. It's, you're following a star.
Right.
It's not GPS. It's not going to get you right where you need to be.
They show up and they have no diapers.
No.
He said it best. He said that there were probably some wise women on the trip with them, but there's evidence here, I think, that there were no women because they brought frankincense, gold, and myrrh.
Right.
If you put women in charge of it, they would have had practical gifts.
Women are much smarter. And I will just say this without a doubt, smarter about everything. And so they would know what to do.
It happens just like this. We leave the house, and I think about the Magi leaving. Like, I've got the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. I need nothing else. That's like me leaving the house, and I have my drink and maybe a snack, and we leave for a long drive to my in-laws' house. And we get in the car, and the kid says, I'm hungry. And I say, well, I don't have anything for you. And Heather, out comes this, and somebody gets a runny nose, and here comes a tissue. And I have nothing, I'm completely unprepared. But that's why God gave me, God gave us women.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. Thank God for Beth, because packing, I kind of do the same thing. I pack just what I need. She's like, oh, don't you need gloves? Don't you need a jacket?
No, not right now. I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. She thinks ahead, but yeah.
That's yeah. I think that there's evidence that I think that that's really a neat thing to think about. That add the human element, because we read this, and that's something that I encourage everyone to do. Don't read Scripture just as at face value. I tell everybody the word for this. It's called the Bible, right? And
right.
Bible is derived from the Greek word biblios, and biblios translates literally as book. This is a book. The words that are contained within it are divinely inspired. So understand that this is a book, and it is a book filled with this divinely inspired text, but read it for what it is. I don't think that God meant for every word to be hung upon. I think that he meant for us to think about these magi and traveling so far by foot and carrying gold. Like, you have to think, like, there was people, they had to have guards.
Right.
I mean, they would have gotten robbed, right?
If we spend our whole time thinking about every word, you wouldn't have how many different versions of the Bible translations out there. And the thing to keep in mind is the message that all of them collectively give.
But I think that it's awesome to dive in and think about not just how this relates to Jesus, but think about the trials and tribulations of the times, right?
Right.
And not to get hung up on, was there 1 or was there 3 or was there 17 or was there 48 or was there 6,212 wise men? It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. What matters is the overall. But think about what they went through, right?
Right. It's the journey.
Yeah. That's cool. So, lots of stuff going on here at the church. Don't just come and visit us to play off what Derek said earlier on Christmas and Easter. Visit us. We are open in between all of those days. So come and hang out with us here. We have all kinds of wonderful ministries that maybe you have it on your heart to be a part of this ministry. Maybe you want to come and help us do the podcast. We would love to have you. A different view often times is eye-opening, and it is always welcome. I love to hear what other people think. Pastor Beaton said it today in regards to some issues that are going on within the Methodist Church. We may not agree, and that's okay.
No. There's things that me and him don't agree on, and we're still fine.
Yeah.
But we all agree that we are trying to make disciples.
That's it. Trying to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. That's the slogan, the mission statement of the United Methodist Church, and that's what we're out here trying to do.
Right.
Derek and I have many disagreements, but the important thing is we're here trying to be a part of a ministry for Jesus. That's it, right? So at the end of the day, come and be a part of it with us. Come and help us make disciples of Christ. There's all kinds of opportunities. One in particular this week, the youth group is cooking for mums on Wednesday. That is a huge undertaking. Not to spoil everyone, but the menu is going to be chili and cornbread, which is awesome, right? It's going to be delicious. I can't wait. The youth is going to, like I said, the youth are going to make. So last time, I admit, I was a bit unprepared. I didn't know how to do mums. I'd never done it, right? And now I have, and now I know. So last time I did most of the cooking, and the youth helped. They did help. I wasn't as prepared to lead them in helping as I am now. Now I am ready. So
you know what has to be done.
On Wednesday during youth group, which is another opportunity for anyone, youth age or not. If you're older and you want to be a part, you want to come and help out with the youth, let us know. We'll get you through the Safe Sanctuaries training, and you can come and be a part of that ministry. We have a great group of kids. If you are a youth or you know a youth, invite them. But this Wednesday, they're going to cook. They're going to make chili, and they're going to make cornbread and cake, and I think we have a couple of other, side
and it's going to be delicious.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And it teaches them, I love that because it teaches them how to cook, how to slice onions. I don't know about you, but I had to do those things growing up. But a lot of kids nowadays don't.
No, you hand them an onion, they're like, what?
But
That's what I do.
But our youth, they're going to be a part of this, and they get to serve the community, you know?
And that's what's important, learning how to serve.
Oh, absolutely, with a happy heart,
Right.
you know? I tell everybody this about mums. They say, I invite everyone to mums, and people say, well, you know, I thought that was kind of for the less fortunate or whatever. And I say, yeah, well, it's for the hungry, and I'm hungry on Thursday. So
Right.
Come and hang out. Is a free meal. Sometimes what that means is I got home from work and I didn't have time to cook for the kids. And come and hang out. There's a lot of great people. You can have great conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, this week, come support our youth group. Our youth group is there, and they're happy to serve, and they're serving with a happy heart. That's on Wednesday. The youth group's on Wednesday. Mom's Cafe is on Thursday at 5 o'clock. And then, of course, on Sundays. You know, we have 3 services. We have the contemporary service that's down in the fellowship hall at 9 o'clock. Before that,
9:15.
9:15. That's right.
It changed.
9:15. So 9:15 now in 2020 and beyond. 9:15 is the contemporary service down in the fellowship hall. So contemporary service, they just got they just got the guitars and the drums, and it's just a little bit different. But it's awesome. You know, you get the same message, though. That is something cool. Our pastor is gracious enough to do all 3 services. Mm-hmm. And so the 8 o'clock service is gospel. It still feels traditional to me as far as like the feeling of the service, but it is gospel, so the music's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But then the 9:15 service down in the fellowship hall is awesome,
which is now being led by Angie and Tim Zolman.
Right, and then you come back up here into the traditional at 10:30, and it's awesome.
It's great.
Yeah, so the traditional service is going to be what you think of when you think of church, right? The pastor is going to be preaching from the pulpit in the robe, and the choir is going to be up there singing their hearts out. It's just a great time. Like I said, there's tons of opportunities within our church to serve or to be served. Come and hang out with us and see what we have to offer. Derek, do you have anything else? Did I miss anything?
Make sure if you want to get involved with small groups, there are several small groups happening.
Very good. I know. So on the back of our bulletin, there are a couple of small groups. We have like a new kind of 20, 30 something, right?
Right.
There's a couple of small groups. So check out our Facebook page. I'm sure that information will be up on there. If not, give us a call at the church and somebody will point you in the right direction. But best of all, just show up on Sundays and ask a question and somebody will point you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
If for nothing else, there's donuts and a nice continental breakfast, and hang out there, and somebody that knows something about the church will wander by, I promise. Ask them, and they'll tell you where you need to be and when you need to be there. Sunday school, it's a full service thing that we got going on here at Memorial United, isn't it, Derek?
We have something for everybody here.
That's right, we do. It's the Neapolitan ice cream of churches. I love the fact that we have such diverse worship opportunities, and I think that you will too. Come by and give us a try. Sundays, 8 to 10:30. We have church services starting everywhere in between. Right?
Right.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.